Lori Lightfoot is out as mayor of Chicago. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. On February 28th, 2023, that's Tuesday, Chicago held its mayoral election, or rather, wrapped it up. Elections these days can last for a month and a half or longer. When officials had tallied the last ballots, they arrived at a shocking and almost unprecedented result. Lori Lightfoot, the incumbent mayor of Chicago, lost re-election. Two questions suggest themselves immediately. Why did she lose, and will her likely replacement be any better than she? I'm not sure that I can answer the second question, but you had better believe that I can answer the first. But before I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which quotes Plato as saying, "No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth." And that's probably because the truth very often hurts. And Lori Lightfoot is surely in a world of hurt right now. One more thing, if you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now, the mayor's race. Lori Lightfoot faced 8 other candidates in that race. They included Mr. Paul Vallas, a law and order candidate and former CEO of Chicago Public Schools, who has the support of the police unions, Brandon Johnson, a Cook County commissioner, commanding the support of the Chicago Teachers Union, and Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia of Illinois, who once forced then-Mayor Rahm Emanuel into a runoff in 2015. The other 5 candidates are not worth mentioning, as these 3 and Lightfoot took the first 4 places. Lightfoot finished 3rd and Garcia 4th. Vallas and Johnson will advance to the runoff in April. Lori Lightfoot must have had the sketchiest record of any mayor of Chicago since Scarface Al Capone and Bugs Moran carved up the city between them and fought a quiet civil war that culminated in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, February 14, 1929. The mayors of Chicago have always had a reputation for venality, but at least Richard J. Daley, mayor of Chicago for 21 years, since 1955, kept the streets clean and the trains running. This last of the bosses died literally with his shoes on, collapsing to the floor at a meeting. After him came a succession of mayors, most of whom kept the city running as well as Daley had. Daley's son, Richard M. Daley, served for 22 years, longer than any other mayor. Lori Lightfoot cannot make the same claim. Crime is crippling, and Lightfoot even asked for federal help with it. Her plan to spend $411 million on housing, public parks, and holistic services did not help. What she lacked in organizational smarts, she made up for, or at least tried to, in unparalleled arrogance and a capacity for blaming others. Do any of you remember in 2020 when she told an alderman that she knew he liked to preen? Not exactly Dale Carnegie. Now bear in mind that absolutely anyone who holds office of honor, trust, or profit in Chicago, Illinois is a Democrat. Lori Lightfoot could not even get along with fellow Democrats. During the Summer of Love, also in 2020, she blamed guns that people could bring in from other states for the crime. But she gladly embraced defunding the police, and that resulted in the crippling crime. She also locked down her city, as many other mayors and governors did in response to the virus that shall remain nameless. Then she broke her own mandates on masks and on the lockdown itself. Her attempts to enforce a jab mandate met with resistance, both passive, only 64% of Chicago police officers reported their jab status, and active. More than 130 firefighters and other city workers sued the city over it. Thanksgiving weekend of 2021 was the city's worst. Total homicides passed 1,000 for the first time since 1994. In one memorable case from February of 2019, police acting on bad information raided a woman's home, restrained her as she was getting ready for bed, and forced her to stand handcuffed and without any clothes for 40 minutes, while an all-male squad conducted a fruitless search for an unknown subject. The city had to settle with her for $2.9 million. Predictably, after the great leak of the first draft opinion in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, Lori Lightfoot weighed in. She issued a call to arms to the alternative lifestyle community, of which she is a member. After the Dobbs opinion and Justice Clarence Thomas' concurrence came down, she criticized Thomas using some very unladylike language, which I will not repeat here. Now I'm going to get into the last doings before the election, including some unbelievable shenanigans. Before I do, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, the employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the last few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. As election day, make that election last day, approached, questions rolled in about how she was running the election. On February 18th, she actually told those not inclined to vote for her not to vote at all. Alice Yin, reporter for the Chicago Tribune, dropped a 15-tweet thread after the rally at which Lightfoot made those remarks. I won't repeat its text here, but I will leave links in the description of the odd numbers. Lots of video embeds of historical interest, but it also quotes Lightfoot as saying that a vote for anyone not named Lightfoot was a vote for Representative Garcia or Mr. Vallas, and that anyone wanting either man to control their destinies should stay home and not vote. Whoa! Later, she retracted that statement. But on Sunday afternoon, the 26th, the Daily Mail reported on another potential scandal. Inmates voting under pressure from prison guards. No jurisdiction yet allows convicts to vote. Or if any jurisdiction does, Chicago is not one of them. One inmate said a guard told him he was just doing what I'm told. An argument that didn't work for William Colley at My Lai. An argument that didn't work for the National Socialists at Nuremberg. Apologies to actor Kevin Pollak, who delivered those lines in the movie A Few Good Men. With all precincts finally reporting, Vallas claimed 34.9% of the vote and Johnson 20.2%. Lori Lightfoot finished third with 16.4%. When someone asked her to comment on her loss, she said back, and I quote, "I'm a black woman in America, of course," unquote, Lori Lightfoot. You know what else? According to the New York Post, she anticipated losing for those very reasons in an interview that she gave the New Yorker that was published on Saturday. Now comes the $1,024,000 question. After Lori Lightfoot, who? Paul Vallas and Brandon Johnson are both Democrats, as is every other office holder in Chicago. Vallas is campaigning on law and order, an easy case to make in Lori Lightfoot, Chicago. Brandon Johnson is campaigning on typical leftist and socialistic talking points. I've left links in the description to the campaign websites for both men, so you can see for yourselves. And, granting the premise that I actually have any listeners in Chicago, maybe this will help you decide how to vote in that runoff. Interestingly, Vallas has the editorial endorsement of the Chicago Tribune, who praise him for out-of-the-box thinking. Johnson claims credit mostly as a union and community organizer. The runoff will take place on April 14th. With Lightfoot out of the running, those two candidates will now get all the attention. The last mayor to serve only one term before Lori Lightfoot was Jane Byrne. She served from 1979 to 1983. This after Michael Bilandic finished out a rump term after Richard J. Daley died. Harold Washington won a second term, but died less than 2 months later. Eugene Sawyer won election to a rump term, but Richard M. Daley became mayor 2 years later and held the office until 2011. After that came Rahm Emanuel, and then, in 2019, Lori Lightfoot. Notably, the Daleys at least kept things running in their city. By all accounts, Chicago today is almost as bad a disaster as is San Francisco. But, as is often the case, people get whom they vote for. On paper, Paul Vallas seems the better candidate. His campaign website promises specific programs, in contrast to Brandon Johnson's leftist platitudes. Now, whether Vallas can win and whether he means what he says remain for the people of Chicago to see. Links in the description of the article to Alice Yin's thread from that rally where Lori Lightfoot told some people not to vote, to the campaign websites of Paul Vallas and Brandon Johnson, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlives.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to 3 other videos about Lori Lightfoot losing that election, or maybe about the runoff campaign to come next. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another Declaration of Truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.